Well, John, you did a good job of everyone followed your direction right away and sat down. I'm going to have to use you for more meetings, man. That was impressive. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm glad to see so many people here in person. I know we also have attendance online today, so this is available online. And I'd just like to thank everyone. I was just asking John, we were talking about this a minute ago, when was the last time we had this public meeting? And 2 years ago is when we had the last public meeting for Lincoln Avenue. We're going to talk today about some of the reasons why. There's been a lot of progress, a lot of coordination with our federal and our state partners, and some revisioning of what this project is going to deliver. So tonight we're going to kind of give a whole overview of the project, and we're really excited to share a lot of that new updates as well as next steps, right? So we're getting to the point now where we can actually deliver next steps, start talking about the exciting part where we're going to start to see some of these improvements come into place. But with that, I would like to invite our amazing Mayor Marissa Harmon up to say a few words and introduce us. Thank you very much.
Well, good evening. It's like being in a room with all my friends. This is just so exciting to be able to work on such an important project. As I was driving here this evening, I couldn't help but be reminded of how important traffic flow is to not only us residents, but our businesses. I'm a business owner in the city of Lone Tree, and it really is so important that you can access where you're going easily. You can pull into the good Target next door, which I know all of you are going to stop and shop at before you head home this evening. And it really is so impactful that we can come together as partners and work on projects like this. So I am Marissa Harmon, the mayor of this beautiful city of Lone Tree. We are joined by some very important guests this evening. My partner on council, Councilmember Alicia Brown. Give everybody a wave if you would. And we have Parker in the house. So I love when my other mayors are here. So we have Parker Mayor Josh Rivera and Mayor Pro Tem John Dyack. We know with projects like this, you truly cannot do it alone, and that's the most important thing that we value here in the city of Lone Tree is we know that we are better together. So I want to take a moment to thank our partners at CDOT, Denver South, Douglas County, as we all come together, and a number of you are also here to work on whether it's design elements or making sure that this project gets off under the financial constraints that we all feel. And we are so excited and thankful for each of you to take the time to join. So make sure that you give us our feedback if you're here and you have any comments or questions. We are an open book and want to make sure that we get this project and shovels in the ground before we know it. So I will hand it back to Justin Smith. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Harmon. Appreciate it. Great to have Parker here as well. Thank you very much, Josh and team, for being here. We also may have Commissioner Layden online. I'm looking. Okay. So obviously the Douglas County has staff in attendance tonight, and the commissioner has continued to be very supportive of this project. If he does join us at some point, we'll give him an opportunity to jump in and say thank you to everyone. So we always get to do this meeting logistics slide, and it's always very exciting. So today, the agenda we're going to go through, like I said, first of all, an update on this project, right, on our Advancing Lincoln Avenue project and what has been happening for the last 2 years. We're also going to have our partners at CDOT give an update on a project you probably see in construction right now. If you get off at Lincoln Avenue going northbound, you've experienced the shift that's in place and all the work going on for the amazing new mobility hub. So CDOT's going to give us an update on that. We will then have a Q&A session. We'll have microphones on each end. We'll hand those out. We'll give her an opportunity to ask us questions. And then we'll also talk about ways to stay involved moving forward. If you are in person, when we get to the Q&A part at the end, right, we'll be able to see your hand. You can raise it. We'll come over. If you're online, you'll be able to put anything into the chat function. We'd ask any questions throughout the time. Please put it in the chat function. When we get to Q&A, we'll go through all those chat items and answer them at that time. So, why are we here today? Again, the main goal today is we want to be able to share information on all the progress that we've made on Advancing Lincoln Avenue. Again, CDOT is going to provide us with some actual real-time updates of our CDOT Mobility Hub. And if you would like to continue to stay involved, you want to be able to get your email, put comments in. We have a fancy QR code. You can pull your phone out right now. Don't do it after that because pay attention. But right now, please pull out your phone. You can go ahead and scan that QR code and get that information. And I'll give a second because whenever I do that, my phone never works correctly. So, perfect. And we'll pull that back up later if somebody needs it. Again, the main reason why this project was started and continues to be so important to the entire region, the area and the interchange of I-25 in Lincoln and the Lincoln Avenue corridor is one of the critical transportation spines for all of northern Douglas County and entry into Douglas County and into Arapahoe County. This is a critical junction, and all we're seeing in this area, as we all know, we're getting more and more people moving into this community. We have an amazing new, if you've been on the east side of Lone Tree recently, you've seen all the new residential units coming in, the brand new buildings. All of this will be served by this project. We're also seeing more jobs, eventually more retail, right? All these great uses in supporting this project. And all of that relates to our travel needs. We're going to talk today not just about vehicles, but how all modes and all people in the area will be able to travel through this corridor. So with that, I'm going to kick it off to Dan Rain, the city's mobility manager. He's going to go through our next steps and some of our process, and then he'll pass it off to John Chesser, our consultant.
Thank you, Justin. Hey, good evening, everyone. Dan Rain, mobility manager, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the project and address why it's been 2 years. What we have always started with is the purpose and need for this project, and it really focuses on providing a safe, efficient, and reliable travel along the Lincoln Avenue corridor through the interchange of I-25, but also destinations east and west. And we really focused on 4 core themes: enhancing multimodal travel and connectivity, improving operations of Lincoln Avenue and through the interchange with I-25, addressing existing and lots of future traffic congestion, and improving safety. And we've stayed true to that. And with that, our stakeholders have stayed through us for 4 years on this study. And thank you, everyone, for your focus. So, 2 years ago, we were here talking about our previously recommended alternative. And we were well on our way. However, on December 7th, 2023, a date for me that lives in infamy, we did receive a letter from the Federal Highway Administration with some key concerns about aspects of this previously recommended alternative. And some say we were asked, but more voluntold, to conduct a design review workshop where we brought in experts across the country from FHWA, the folks we've been working with at CDOT, our great Wilson team, but also independent experts. And we brought them all in together in a week, spending a week in a conference room to review the previously recommended alternative, probably sharing a little too much Panera over a week that I would not recommend for you all to do. But coming out of that, we really focused on identifying design refinements and exploring concepts that will help us meet our purpose and need and those focus areas, and may offer additional benefits as well. And truth be told, they did. Coming out of the workshop, what we had found is that the previous alternative that we recommended could not advance. There were some safety and operational concerns. And to put it specifically, it's being able to sign decisions in a certain length on I-25. And our juxtaposition of Lincoln Avenue between 470 and Bridgegate Parkway really presented a lot of challenges. We also found out, though, that the partial cloverleaf, the interchange that it is now, has some long life to it still to be explored. However, we did also identify safety and operational improvements that are essential to keeping it as a long-term asset. What we all agreed upon was that multimodal improvements are the top priority to be able to address those safety and lack of mobility concerns, really restrict us to grow safely as a city and to further connect to our neighbors to the east, to the west, north, and south. But also, all the experts provided some interesting ideas that you'll see tonight for at-grade solutions at a major intersection, Lincoln and Havana, that not only could address the near-term and long-term traffic and congestion, but actually might be cheaper design and construct. So we used all of this to refine the plans for Lincoln Avenue. And we've done a bunch of other stuff too that we'll talk about in a little bit. So I want to talk a little bit about this project and the multimodal path design. And heaven help me, is the mouse scroller, is that available? Oh. Great consultant keeps a mouse in his pocket whenever it's needed. And was that a shift and control? Oh, backwards. So I'm going to try to zoom in. How's that look, everyone? What we had figured out, and it mirrors the results of our recently adopted active transportation plan, to safely move people along and across the Lincoln Avenue corridor and through the interchange, is to separate peds and bikes from motor vehicle traffic. And I'll talk about leading from the west, from the left side of the screen to the right. But it starts with widening the path, sidewalks and paths narrow as closer you get to the interchange, really showing the age of the interchange. And what we found, there's really a need to widen those to allow for safe travel, not only people walking, but people biking and other devices that may come in the future. And what we tried to do was come up with a design that avoids conflicts. So while you'll see there's an at-grade recommendation from, if you follow Lincoln Avenue going eastbound to southbound I-25, there would still be an at-grade crossing there, but workshopping with CDOT, thank you very much, we've been able to explore where we can do a raised crosswalk, where we can optimize the signal timing at that intersection to provide a clear space and time to allow people to cross that ramp without motor vehicle traffic. We're also recommending a separate pedestrian bicycle structure across I-25. As we continue east, also, we've found, and stays true, that those free-flowing ramps at the southeast corner of that interchange, there's just so much traffic, you just don't get a gap that you can have the confidence to cross a two-lane ramp during the peak periods. Now, if you're going there in the middle of the night, you might not be seen, but you might have a gap. But we're talking for all ages and abilities. So we've come up with a design that would allow folks to traverse under the ramps. Our partners at CDOT, and Giovanna will speak to the Mobility Hub, developed the Mobility Hub to include not only staircases to get to a pedestrian overpass to service bus stand customers for statewide transit, but also developed ramps as well too, to provide the opportunity for the city and the county to develop a plan to tie to that structure and offer folks another safe crossing of the interstate without having to mingle with traffic. And then we would just continue east. But we're here tonight, we propose east of the interchange right now is an 8-foot asphalt path. But we're hoping with the help and engagement we've had with our stakeholders and thoughts you share with tonight, that we can come up with a recommendation for the intersection of Lincoln and Havana that will allow us to complete a design and construct a facility and make that trail the 12 feet it needs to be wide to connect all the way east to the city limits. Now with that, it does take a little bit of process. So we have funding for this project, a fully funded design, and fully funded construction. Well, almost fully funded. It's pretty expensive, but we're really close. But we have to go through a process, an environmental process to get approval. And project manager from Wilson is Mr. John Chester, and John's going to lead us through that.
Thanks, Dan.
John, take it away.
Appreciate it. All right, I'm going to take a moment to pause and check in with Anna Marie online, who's monitoring the chat and everything online. Anna Marie, are we still hooked up and connected?
I hear you loud and clear, John.
Excellent, and we can hear you as well. So as we get towards the end of the presentation, we'll check in with you again. I know you're filtering through the chat comments, and we'll get some questions from folks that have joined us online. Thank you.
Great.
All right. Okay, as Dan mentioned, the first project that we're going to advance is the multimodal path. Coming out of the workshop with CDOT and FHWA and our industry partners, unanimous, that is number one. We've got to push that forward. It can be done regardless of what other transportation improvements we have going on the corridor, and therefore can go ahead and go first. So in order to do that, we've already initiated the NEPA and preliminary design process for that. As Dan mentioned, we have design funding and we have almost what we need for construction. So we've got a plan to get that project out on the street as soon as possible, which is amazing. It's really, really exciting. So the NEPA process is basically our ability to go in and analyze the recommended alternative for environmental impacts. We get a chance to engage with the public. We get a chance to engage with agencies and understand any questions, comments, concerns, work through those, and produce an environmental document at the end of the day that either helps us avoid environmental impacts or mitigate them if we have them. So that process is underway right now. We're working with CDOT on their categorical exclusion process, and still early, but we've started and it's underway. Preliminary design, a little bit more update here. So this is about 30% design. Our team just submitted to CDOT last week the 30% design for the multimodal project, so it's under review right now. On November 5th, we'll be meeting with CDOT and all of the folks, all the disciplines within CDOT to talk about that, engage in dialogue, comments, get an understanding of different changes we can make, refinements we can make, upgrades we can make, and continue working through that process to gain the state and federal approvals that we need. The idea will be we'll get to about 90% design summer of next year. And our hope is to advertise for construction in the fall. Some of the construction money we have is 2027 money, which for the federal year starts after September. So we're targeting that in 2026 to advertise for construction, which means construction of these facilities that Dan just walked through would start in early 2027. So that's fantastic news. That's just part of what we've been doing in the 2-year gap that Dan mentioned as we came out of the workshop. We really wanted to understand what we could move forward quickly, what was necessary, what was needed in the corridor, what could advance, and due to the city and the county's excellent work in securing funding, this is it. And it aligns perfectly with the primary need we had coming out of the workshop. All right, in addition to the multimodal path, Dan mentioned the Lincoln and Havana intersection. This is the next critical piece to understand in the corridor. Havana and Lincoln in 2050, which is what we assess traffic volumes for to make sure we come up with a project that has longevity, does not work very well with the expected growth and travel volume increase in that year. So we've got to take a look at what we can do. In our original previously preferred alternative, we were looking at grade separating Lincoln and Havana. However, coming out of the workshop, as Dan mentioned, we were encouraged to explore at-grade options. So we've done that. We started with about 11 different alternatives as we were going through the analysis. We've completed level 1 and level 2 screening for the Lincoln-Havana intersection, worked our way down to 3 build alternatives. We will always carry forward the no action, which isn't nothing. As you'll see here in a little bit, the no action has some planned and funded improvements that are in it already. So we've got to take those into account. But that always advances forward for comparison purposes. The goal here is to identify a single recommended alternative that can help Lincoln and Havana in the future, which helps the entire Lincoln Avenue corridor all the way through the interchange with I-25. So that's the process that we started. We're in the middle of it right now. We're moving forward. The 3 build alternatives, I'm going to walk through those here on screens. We also have them on boards in the back. Our design team is here. I would encourage folks that have questions, take a look at the designs, give us your feedback. This is what we want. We want to hear from you. What do you see? What sounds good? What questions do you have? What concerns do you have? This is an extremely important step in the process to make sure that we select an alternative that's really going to improve the intersection in the future. So please, 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 online or in person, provide your feedback. It's important for today. All right, the first alternative that we're going to look at for Havana and Lincoln is a displaced left turn. Now, you may, if you live in Douglas County or travel through Douglas County, you may have seen a couple of these go in on Santa Fe, US 85 south of C470. There's a couple of those that Douglas County put in here in the last couple years. What it does is it takes the left turn movements out of the main intersection itself. This is interesting to the project team because one of the major movements that we have in the AM peak hour, so in the morning, is folks traveling east on Lincoln and heading north into Meridian. Major volumes. So by pulling that traffic out, putting them in their own lanes, getting them out of the main intersection itself, the hope is that this allows traffic through Lincoln, through the intersection, and for that major movement to all operate in a way that gets folks where they want to be most efficiently. All right, same parallel movement going westbound and south into Coventry, the city center development that's coming in the future. Again, that road to the south doesn't exist right now. That's Havana. Ridgegate City Center has a plan for that, so we're trying to tie in to their plan. Major contributor, very engaged throughout the entire process, both Meridian and Coventry, huge partners of ours, and so that's why we show this to the south, because whatever we build here has got to tie into that. All right, so that's the displaced left turn alternative. The next one we're going to look at is called the offset T alternative. This one takes certain movements out of the intersection and moves it to another intersection. So by, again, trying to eliminate competing movements, trying to get people where they want to go most efficiently. And one thing that our traffic modeling has shown us is we know where people want to go. We know in the AM and in the PM where people want to go. We know how they want to get there. And so these are all designed to help do that most efficiently. What this alternative does is it allows for the left turns here, getting north into Meridian to do that. And then the left turns coming out of Coventry, out of City Center, would not oppose that. Directly at the intersection, they would be made over here, slightly to the east. So again, the hope here was that by separating the movements, our traffic modeling would show that it improves efficiency for everybody to get to where they want to go. You'll notice that these also include a signalized intersection at Zenith, which is part of the city center plan. All right, next we're going to look at a flyover hybrid alternative. So because that movement in the morning, eastbound to northbound into Meridian is so heavy and the volumes are so high, we added a grade separated element into the analysis to see, does it make a difference? Can we, by separating physically and through grade and creating a flyover for those folks, can we get the improvement at the intersection itself that we want to see? That's going to help us in 2050. And so again, separating the left turn movements, getting folks into Meridian as efficiently as possible. We paired this up with a displaced left turn for folks going westbound and southbound into Coventry. The flyover itself only addresses one movement, so we added another alternative here for the folks going westbound and southbound into the city center to be able to, again, get people where they want to go most efficiently. as I mentioned before, the no action alternative is being carried forward. It'll carry forward all the way through the NEPA process for comparison purposes, but it also gives us an idea of improvements that are planned through the city and the county that we need to be taking into consideration. For example, Douglas County does have plans to add another left turn eastbound to northbound into Meridian in the future. It's not funded as we sit today, but it is part of the plan. That triple left, it's in and of itself does not solve the problem in 2050. And that is why we're continuing to look at what else can we do here that does help solve that problem. The other thing that you'll notice here is that there's a double left at Oswego, eastbound to northbound. This is also in the plan for the county in the future. And so we wanted to show that here. All of our traffic modeling takes those into account as if they've happened because they are planned. And again, Zenith to the south, Havana to the south with the city center development, those are planned. And we know what, in working with the city center and Ridgegate and Coventry, we've got their traffic numbers and their analysis that help us understand what volumes we're talking about coming in and out of the city center in the future, so we can plan ahead for that. So again, the no action will carry forward. We are hoping to identify an alternative, one of the three that I just walked through and the boards we have in the back, that are going to improve on that no action and get us to 2050. All right. Schedule-wise, we've been doing a lot. It's been a good 2 years since we've met with you. We've had a lot going on a lot of different paths. What I wanted to highlight here is that we are still in 2025 for a little bit yet. We have advanced preliminary design for the multimodal path, and we are advancing conceptual design for a series of other smaller projects, starting with Havana and Lincoln. All right. In 2026, we're going to proceed with final design and advertisement for construction for the multimodal path, and at the same time continue advancing the design for those other smaller independent projects along the Lincoln Avenue corridor that contribute to an ultimate vision for advancing Lincoln Avenue. One of the great things that we got coming out of the workshop when the flyover was deemed to not be able to move forward was to be able to attack this problem through a series of smaller, independent, more easily fundable projects that didn't have to wait on something else to advance. Multimodal is the perfect example. That's going to go to construction a year from now. It's going to advertise for construction a year from now. We have some funding to continue that design for these other projects in through 2026 and 2027. But we don't have all of it. And so the project team with the city and the county and our partners at Denver South are going to continue looking for funding options to advance more projects out of this study that will advance Lincoln Avenue and create an efficient movement for all users all the way through the corridor. Again, some of that is funded, some of that is not. And so we will be looking at all kinds of different ways to attract money. And the best way you can do that is to start building stuff, right? Show momentum, and we're doing that. So the future's bright. We're really excited about where all of this ended up. Very interested in hearing from folks today on the 3 build alternatives for advancing or for Havana and Lincoln. Please, please, please provide your comments on that, but also on the multimodal path. Take a look at the different components of that. Take a look at the different pieces of it. And ask questions, provide feedback. What do you see that's going to work? What do you see that might not work? Remember, these are all in 2 dimensions right now. But our designers and our folks, we live in a 3-dimensional world, so we can help have those conversations with everybody. With that, I'm going to turn this back over to Dan to talk a little bit more about what's going on in Lone Tree.
Thank you, John. When you're doing a big project like this, you can't help but gain momentum on adjacent projects that will help us continue to grow and improve our transportation system. So we have been pretty busy. Mentioned before, nearly $10 million in funding for the multimodal implementation that we showed before. How many here have used our Link on Demand free transit program? Well, on May 27th, Douglas County launched a whole new addition to the service, serving all of Highlands Ranch, a major investment, and if you're wondering, it's still the same app, still the same call center. So we're working together on it, and it's going really well, and it is helping people get around. So hopefully, if you haven't, please give it a try. Also, in the last year, we worked on an active transportation plan, a plan that would focus on helping people to be able to move throughout the city of Lone Tree without the aid of a motor vehicle. And thank you, Mayor and City Council, that plan was adopted this July. Also, we've been working on the surface of Lincoln Avenue. We've done our concrete panel replacements, but warning, there might be a few utility companies going out there to still do a little work before winter comes. But more so than that, when we started this project, we also, our partner at CDOT was looking at mobility hubs along the I-25 corridor. And we were very fortunate they focused on the city of Lone Tree. And with that, they provided us another opportunity to allow folks to travel within the region and within the state without the aid of a motor vehicle. And I'm very privileged to introduce CDOT's Giovanna Tappi, she goes by Gio, she's good with that, to talk about the construction that's underway. Gio, would you mind sharing a little bit about the construction project of the Mobility Hub? Thank you so much.
Thank you. You guys are all a lot taller than me. Okay, well, I'm happy to be back to give you an update on construction. So I was here 2 years ago. I was the project manager for design of this project. But before I get into talking about what you're seeing out there in construction, I'll give you a reminder of what this project is all about, and that is to create a new transportation center. So a mobility hub, it brings together different modes of transportation all in one place. So we already have RTD's Skyridge light rail station, and CDOT's busing service currently stops there. But this project will modify the existing I-25 ramps to move those bus stops along the highway to improve operations and passenger convenience. We'll also be constructing a pedestrian bridge that'll span I-25, connecting people to current and future development in this area, as well as provide sidewalk connections and a passenger pickup and drop-off area. So I have a schematic here on the screen that shows the locations of those project elements, so you can see that this project is really like a puzzle piece. It's connecting folks to what's already built on the west side of I-25 and what's coming on the east side. And this will fit perfectly with the improvements that are coming along on Lincoln Avenue. So you've probably noticed the construction that's happening out there right now. I was just out on site last week, and it was really exciting for me because you're really starting to see things take shape out there. So this is a conceptual drawing that I have, a conceptual rendering of the pedestrian bridge and the associated ramp, and it's looking in the southbound direction. And so we're working on the pedestrian ramp supports on both the east and west sides of I-25. We're forming up the walls at the ends of those ramps, as well as doing drainage and utility work. Something else you might have noticed as you're driving through the corridor and the project limits, you may have seen that the traffic has been shifted slightly. So what we're doing out there is we've adjusted the lanes to give workers more room and more access in the middle of I-25 so that they can construct that center pier. And all this is getting the ramps and supports ready for our new 2-span steel pedestrian bridge. So this will be fabricated soon and is expected to be placed early next year. So now, when you drive through the project, you'll have a sense of what's going on out there. Construction is continuing, and it should be completed by this time next year. So if you want more information about the progress of construction, or if you have questions about the project or comments, please reach out. We have a project webpage. I've listed the address here on this screen, as well as our project hotline and our email address. I too put a QR code that'll take you to the project webpage where you can read more about the project. You can get information about busting, and you can sign up for weekly emails about construction impacts if you'd like. So that's my update, and I'll turn it back over to John.
All right, that is the presentation. That's the information we have to share with everybody today, but we are really, really excited to continue the engagement and hear from folks tonight and in the future. We have a board in the back on the side here with the same information, but there are a lot of ways to stay engaged with the project. That is what we want. That is what we encourage. I'm not kidding. This is why we're here. So the QR code will send you to a Google form where you can make comments. The website has all the updates, all the slides from tonight, video recording of the presentation. All of that is going to be up on the website soon. I'm not going to promise a day because I wouldn't do that to Joy, who's somewhere in the back. I wouldn't make promises on her behalf, but give us a couple days and we'll get all that stuff up there so you guys can take a look at all this at your leisure and provide comments right through the website there or through email, through the project hotline, or through the Google form that we've given everybody access to as we go forward. So with that, Anna Marie, I wanted to check in again online. Has Commissioner Layden joined us yet?
Not that I can see. I believe we're expecting him via phone, and I'm not seeing a call-in phone number here.
No
So,
worries. He was double booked tonight. We were hoping to get a few minutes of his time. Again, if we're still on when he joins us, then we'll give him a couple minutes to share his thoughts. With that, we're going to open it up for Q&A. We do have Anna Marie online that's been taking information through the chat, and there may be some questions there, but I'll start in the room. We have Dan and Justin on the side here with a microphone. Angie's over here with a microphone. They can either answer the questions that you have, but make sure you get a microphone so that everybody online can hear your question. I may repeat it if we need to, but that's the plan. So any questions from folks in the room? Excellent. Always got to have a first person. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. My name is Mario Hansen, part of Kiewit Construction, civil engineer and Lone Tree Steering Committee. I just had a question regarding northbound I-25 to eastbound Lincoln. So really kind of that lower right quadrant which we're looking at, really trying to understand that while you are stitching the highway beautifully with the multimodal path, is there really going to be opportunities to connect that path to future Lone Tree City Center, as well as, you know, give development and access for that region, a way for drivers to get in and get out? Because it seems like, yeah, basically that area. Yeah.
Yes, and Dan can jump in on this too if you want to hand the microphone back to him. Thank you, great question. Something we've given a lot of thought to. So as Dan mentioned, the black line that extends north, the path that we're proposing is an 8-foot asphalt track. The reason is because we don't exactly know what City Center is going to be doing to the south. And whatever they do, we want to tie into it. And we've engaged quite a bit with them as we've gone on. This provides maximum flexibility for us to get something in that's functional for people now, while minimizing throwaway. So what we end up doing here that replaces the 8-foot path will depend an awful lot on the development of City Center, and the ability to get folks in and out of there. There's a trail network that's proposed. Dan, do you want to add to this a little bit?
Well, the other part of why it's asphalt is we don't want to wait. The multimodal, mostly funded, construction dollars, fully funded design. We don't want to wait. We want to move forward. There are people now that stand on Lincoln, adjacent to Lincoln Avenue, at Havana, waiting for buses, and they don't even have pavement to stand on at the back of the curb. It's just a sign. So the lack of connectivity is really impacting folks' mobility, and that's why several years ago, we expanded Link on Demand to include Meridian North and South to at least provide transportation for those folks to get connected to the rest of the city of Lone Tree. So by developing, if you would, an asphalt interim project, it allows us to make that connection happen and help people safely traverse the corridor.
Does that answer your question? All right, excellent. Other questions in the room? Yes, sir.
Hi there, my name is Michael Kaminer. I am a Parker resident. I also work in the field. And can you clarify which elements of the project are funded and which we're still awaiting funding for?
Yes. Excellent question. I'm going to skip forward. I think the best way to do this is through the schedule, and I'm going to blow up a little bit of the information here. All right, Dan and Justin, get ready. I'm going to throw it to you here in a little bit to talk about some of the funding. But right now, design for the multimodal path, preliminary and final design, is funded fully. Construction for the multimodal path is almost fully funded. As the design goes on, we get better cost estimates and we have the ability to understand exactly what that needs to be, and we'll know exactly where we've got to be, what number we've got to hit there. Moving forward, there is some funding for design of some of these other projects. Havana, Lincoln being the first one. We've also got the ability to look at Park Meadows on the west side, especially that southbound off-ramp. Right turn over to Park Meadows. If folks have driven through there's a lot going on. So we have some preliminary funding to look at that, as well as a few other things. Beyond that, we don't have the final design money for those. We don't have construction money for those. Dan, Justin, did I hit that about right?
That was pretty good, John, speaking for the city and everything. So the one thing I would add, we have, when we look at Lincoln and Havana, right? So we talked a lot about the multimodal. We are very close to having all the funding. Again, John talked about, right, so we have final design, we don't have final numbers, so we're working through that. But the next step, when we look at Havana Lincoln, if you look at, with both the city and the county, right, we do 5-year projections for our capital program and our capital projects, trying to make sure, right, we're looking way out 5 years away and trying to fund improvements, right? We all do that together. So if you look at both the county and the city's 5-year capital plans, there is funding dedicated to the Lincoln Avenue corridor. Right now, we're still working through the design and exactly what those details will be and what those costs will be, but there is commitment from the city and the county to really fund this in that next 5-year time frame. Obviously, things still to be figured out. The one other piece I want to add, we haven't highlighted this a lot. Previously, you saw some very big improvements at I-25, right, and Lincoln. When we worked with the federal government and CDOT, we really pulled these projects more into the city and county, right? What you'll see on Lincoln, what you see in the bike ped is our phase 1 and 2. We still are looking long-term at a phase 3, and our partners at CDOT have been working with us to identify some future potential improvements, right? These are more safety improvements, allowing bus better access across the interchange, potentially some modifications to the ramp to improve sight distance. Those are not currently funded, but we are working with our CDOT partners to start to identify what those could be, start some design work, and then trying to ultimately see if our partners at CDOT can find funding. So when we get those together, right, we'll all be supporting them moving forward. So it's kind of 3 phases, and each one of them has a different thing. Does that make sense? Yeah, great.
Awesome, thank you, Justin. Dan, anything to add?
My apologies, I failed to mention phase 2, the multimodal, unfunded, is we're exploring a grade separation at Cottonwood Creek. John, would you mind bringing that up? As we've mentioned, we have a lot of construction money for multimodal, but what we have found through the project is that while at grade crossings are a mobility enhancement for folks, grade separation really addresses the need for high ease of use and facilities that are for all ages and abilities. So what we have found is that providing a grade separation at Cottonwood Creek between the interchange and Havana would further enhance mobility, as well as provide a clear traffic-free connection from Meridian in the north to the mobility hub, which we're hoping they're going to really engage the bus staying services. We are committed to finding that funding, and we will be tracking that through the Denver Regional Council of Governments, and very hopeful to find that.
Awesome, thank you, Dan. All right, I'll give the folks in the room a break. Keep thinking of some questions, I'm coming back to you. Anna Marie, online, anything that's come through the chat so far? Any questions you want to throw our way?
We have got one so far, and I believe this person is asking about potential layouts that have been looked at. It says, how about a 2-level roadway, eastbound lanes on top of westbound lanes going from Park Meadows to Havana? Is that an option that's been looked at?
I don't believe that's an option that's been looked at. So if I understand the question correctly, that would be maximizing use of existing right-of-way and taking one direction of folks over the top of the others in a viaduct type of scenario, I would think. That has not been looked at. And if that is, we're talking Park Meadows to Havana and Lincoln, that's through the interchange. That would be major interchange improvements. I think as the conversation moves forward, we can definitely keep that in mind, but it has not been looked at as a solution either for multimodal or for Havana and Lincoln directly. Justin?
Yeah, I'll just add, really, we did look at a wide range of alternatives. The ones we came up here for, there was many, many before that. But if we look back at our purpose and need, the goal of the project, right, was to make sure that we could get as many people through this corridor safely, but also access the corridor. So we know how important the business is and everything else in this area, as well as our future city center. So all of these alternatives really looked at how do you balance that? And so when we started looking at major grade separations, that balance did not exist, right? You'd be separating access to get into these critical areas. So everything we focused on was really on sort of that balance, and I think the alternatives we came out with were the best way to get that balance.
Yeah, definitely taking a look at balancing that regional versus local access and efficiency for folks traveling through the corridor. Has anybody been bold enough to throw a second question into the chat?
Not yet, John.
Okay, I'll come back to you here in a few minutes. All right, I've given folks in the room a few extra minutes to think of some questions. What else is out there? Yes, question over here. I think she's got a mic for you.
Hi, thank you. Hi, I'm Stephanie. I am doing my master's in landscape architecture at University of Colorado, Denver. I just had a question about the path that goes through the southeast clover. So my understanding is that over I-25, it's a bridge, and then that little squiggle is at grade, kind of like going down the underpass.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that you guys talked about was kind of like limiting conflict and making sure there's less of it. When I look at that, I'm kind of get concerned about the pedestrians. What if there's like an accident that goes into that clover, or if like a car rolls over? How are you going to design something so it protects the pedestrian?
From like the ramp that's above the tunnel? Right. So excellent question. And yes, just to kind of back up and walk through some different steps. Grade separated bridge over I-25, kind of staying grade separated with Lincoln, but then working down in topography, kind of on that S curve to be able to drop the grade and get under that northbound off ramp and the eastbound to northbound loop ramp. So you're right, we've got traffic above pedestrians coming in and out on both sides, right? Our design team will take a look at putting protective measures up on the roadway, right? There's guardrail, there's other ways. We've got some of our design engineers in the back that can talk about other things that are being done around the country to kind of protect folks from that. But that's the idea, is that we'll do everything we can safety-wise to make sure that any vehicle issues that happen on that ramp do not make their way to where the pedestrians are using the trail. Excellent question. Other questions? Yeah, we got one here, and then we'll come to the front.
Hi, my name's Duke. I'm a Lone Tree resident, and my commute is eastbound Lincoln onto northbound Havana into Meridian, so a lot of this is very relevant. My question is specific to the displaced left turn option, because in the evening, of course, I have to do that turn the other way, and I feel like the merging after that right turn onto Lincoln already gets kind of hairy because people are trying to merge to the right to get onto I-25. And this option looks like it would leave even less room for that merge. So I was just wondering if that has been taken into consideration.
Yes, actually, we've spent quite a bit of time talking about that. That was one of the issues, actually, with the previously recommended alternative that had grade separated Havana in Lincoln, was with all of the braiding movements that was going to be necessary to get people into the proper lanes. So if you're coming out of Meridian from the north, making that right turn, how best do you weave over onto Lincoln if you want to continue through the intersection, if you want to get on I-25 northbound, I-25 southbound, if you've got other folks coming from the east that are wanting to make the similar movements, right? So how do we get everybody where they want to be? Again, as far as the details go, our design team in the back can help walk through the distances and everything there, but we did pay particular attention to the amount or the length of weave distance that is necessary to be able to facilitate those movements. I won't say that it's perfectly ironed out in this conceptual phase as we sit now, but it is a huge aspect of what we're looking at going forward. I encourage you to work with our design team in the pack and get as detailed as you want to get. It's a huge issue for us, and something that with these at-grade intersection options, we're hoping to simplify over what was grade separated before that was very, very complex, and yet provides safe distances for people to get where they want to go. Great question. Anybody from the project team want to jump in on that with a microphone?
I'll just add one piece, John. So
Please.
you identify every one of these alternatives that you see, right? There's trade-offs. None of them are what we call a perfect solution. Otherwise, we'd be here right now being like, yeah, here it is. You know, every one of these has a trade-off. This improves that left turn movement significantly, but you exactly pointed out, right, some of the trade-offs to some of the other movements. So the team has been, from here, right, we're analyzing all these alternatives, looking at each of those pros and cons and trying to weight them and understand them. And so, yeah, you're exactly right. So, you know, we want to be honest. Yes, that you're exactly right. The trade-off for this one, better inbound, a little more challenging outbound, right? And some of the other alternatives maybe flip that. So we're looking through that as a team and the project team. So as this goes forward, you'll start to see that analysis on the website and as we present more information. So that's a great comment, though. And you hit exactly one of the things all the engineers kept being concerned about, too. So.
Excellent. Yep, question up front.
I'm going to piggyback off Duke's question. I think, you know, from the Parker focus, we're coming westbound. And so what we deal with right now is when we're in the center lane or the right lane is we've got to look out for the VIPs coming on our left that are looking to get over at the last minute, and then also Duke and them trying to get over on the right. So we get pinched on both sides trying to get on the tollway there, or even in fact, just going to Park Meadows. And so I just want to take that into consideration that you've got a double pinch on anybody trying to travel in lane 1 or lane 2, and it's just crazy right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you look at Justin brought up an excellent point. Each of these intersection improvement options look at that differently. You know, the offset tees here with the right turns coming out. I mean, you're talking about one lane of weave, right? And so it's pretty traditional, pretty straightforward for folks coming from the east, but you've got a second intersection here, right? And so the idea is how do we get people in the right lanes farther back soon enough so they're not trying to do that between these two intersections or after, right? So that's one of those there. And then as you look at the flyover again, provides a different benefit to a different movement. You have
no,
an
I
add-on
think
here?
that, yep, my I'm not an engineer by any means, absolutely layman, but obviously everybody can see what happens on Arapahoe Road, where you have the dedicated lanes to get onto 25, and you got movement on the other 2 lanes, and I wonder if that's something that's been considered here.
Yeah, I mean, definitely taking into account what works and what doesn't work in the area is a huge benefit, right? We get the benefit of hindsight over some of those. So taking those best practices, taking those lessons learned, building them into this is huge. The stage that we're at now is, as you can see, pretty conceptual. We're looking at all of those things, but as we select a single alternative to move forward, we'll be able to dive in tremendous detail and look at each of those movements to make sure we're doing the right thing.
And I have one more question, I'm sorry.
No, you're
and this
good.
goes back to the multimodal and to Mustang. Obviously, for us old guys that don't like to ride on the road anymore, you know, the east-west connection east-west trail is a huge benefit. Is there any future plans without city center going? Is there future plans to get that multimodal station connected to Oswego Ranch and thus the east-west trail?
Yeah, Dan, go ahead and take that.
I am extremely fortunate to bring this to Mr. Austin Good, who has a wonderful solution for that mobility challenge.
I was actually trying to say, oh, you got it. Too late. So, there's actually a few really cool trail connections that we're planning over here. One of them actually connecting into the mobility hubs. There's actually a connection through Skyridge. There's a path on the other side of their parking garage that connects down. And then we already have a pre-constructed underpass built underneath Ridgegate Parkway over by Sierra and Cabela's. And so the goal there is to actually connect the trail from Skyridge underneath the existing pre-constructed underpass underneath Ridgegate Parkway, which already gets you up to that east-west trail. And then the other exciting trail connection that we have coming is on the other side of kind of that South Meridian neighborhood along Happy Canyon Creek. So that's where Oswego Ranch is, and so that trail is going to continue up through our coming regional park. And so if you've actually driven on Ridgegate Parkway and looked over to the right or to the left, depending on which way you're going, you might see a concrete trail with a big don't trespass here sign right now. Once it connects to somewhere and they're finished constructing that trail section as part of the creek improvements, that trail will connect all the way up to Lincoln. So some really awesome trail connections coming. Yeah.
Thank you, Austin.
Great questions, really appreciate it. Anna Marie, I'll come back to you online. Has anybody else entered a question into the chat?
No new questions.
Okay, excellent. New questions in the room? All right, it's 7 o'clock. It's a good time to kind of call it a presentation. For those folks that are online, again, we'll be posting all the meeting materials from tonight. All the boards that are in the room will be posted on the website. A video from this presentation will be posted on the website. All the access and the ability to look at these materials and provide feedback will be there. Encourage everybody to do that. In the room, the project team's going to be around for a little while longer. Hopefully this has sparked some questions. Maybe you weren't bold enough to jump up and ask in front of everybody. That's okay. We've got a lot of folks here from the project team to get you answers. Please do that. Again, thank you everybody for coming out. Yes, Joy. Yeah, I think we'd want to keep the survey open for at least a few weeks here, right? Give people a chance at their leisure online to be able to look at the materials and provide feedback. So we'll leave that open for a few weeks after the meeting tonight. And we'll let folks know on the website when we're going to close that down. Even when that Google form closes down, there's still all of those other ways to access the project team and provide your feedback through email, through the website. All right, thank you everybody. Wonderful to have you here tonight. Really exciting to move this project forward.